Hello, everybody. This is Unfudge Your Marketing. This is a show where I chat with business owners and leaders about their marketing missteps, mishaps, and things that didn't go as planned. But most importantly, we focus on the lessons learned for you. I'm your host. I'm Kristi Mitchell. I'm a marketing strategist, and I work with mission-driven, client-centered service providers to take their marketing to the next level. They've typically built their business on referrals and word of mouth, and they know in order to grow and have a greater impact, they need to finally think more strategically about their marketing. I am so excited to welcome Ashley Carlson to the show today. Ashley is the founder and CEO of Elevate Virtual Business Solutions, a WBENC certified agency specializing in operations strategy, executive assistant support, and bookkeeping for entrepreneurs and small businesses. Recognizing that being a business owner can be stressful and delegating can feel scary, Ashley built Elevate to solve this challenge by providing trusted support and seamless systems that empower leaders to focus on what they do best. And boy, oh boy, can I tell you, so many business owners need that. As a mom of two, Ashley is passionate about travel, fostering meaningful connections, and helping professional women create flexible, fulfilling careers. With that, I will welcome Ashley to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I am really excited to chat with you today. I know we have a lot of shared values when it comes to marketing in terms of like authenticity and
Yes.
integrity and all of those great things. Before we dive into our discussion today, I like to always let our guests know how we met each other. And you and I, before we hopped on, were like, oh my gosh, how did we meet? And we think that there is a mystery person out there who introduced us, but for the life of us, neither of us can remember who that was. So, mystery person, if you are listening to the show, please reach out and take credit and say, yes, I introduced Kristi and Ashley, because it's going to drive us both nuts until we figure it out, I think.
Yes, it's gonna be one of those things that at 2 o'clock in the morning one night, one of us is gonna sit up and be like, "Oh, I remember."
Yes. And then I'll quick send you a message and be like,
Yeah.
got it. All right. Well, like I said, I'm really excited for our discussion today. When we were chatting about the topic that you wanted to share, we talked about kind of your shift in perspective and how you viewed marketing for your business. So you kind of mentioned to me in like the earlier days, you felt really intimidated by the traditional idea of quote unquote marketing. But then, through a process that I would love to dive into with you, you came out the other side with a different kind of approach to it, which I know that sounds like it was a huge transformation for you. So if we could go back to kind of those early days with those feelings of intimidation and whatever else was going on, where were you kind of with your marketing? What were you doing? Were you working with other providers? Were you handling yourself? Kind of give us the lay of the land.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that I came from a corporate background of basically like the hospitality business in a couple of different roles, and while they were very much customer service based, I was a catering sales manager and then also a travel agent for most of my career in corporate. And both of those careers are very much customer service, right? I was planning events or planning travel. I loved helping people and build their ideal event or their ideal trip. But with that came a lot of sales, and I had sales goals and I had marketing goals. I had the cold calling and the just all of that, like always needing to meet the numbers. And that part always felt uncomfortable for me because that just wasn't what I was in it for. And so I feel like I always blew my numbers out of the water. I always met my goals. I always did that because I was really good at the customer service side. And I think that, the numbers just didn't drive me. And so now being in my own business, it's made me realize that like when I think of like when I talk to people who do marketing and all of that, I'm like, ooh, or even when I had to be the face of my business, I was like, I don't want to do all that again. And so for me, I think just the definition of marketing has always felt up until recently for me just very the corporate version of that, right? The sales, the numbers, the pitching, the cold calls, and it just didn't feel great.
Yes. I think that is so interesting, and I feel like it's probably extremely relevant to listeners of this show because so many people have done the corporate thing and left to do their own coaching, consulting, whatever type of service business. And so I love that you're sharing that, like this recognition of like what I knew from my corporate days of marketing very much skewed or put this like kind of negative connotation to marketing now that you're a business owner. And
Right.
so I'm sure tons of people can relate to that. So how did you kind of navigate that? And when did you did you kind of have this realization that it was happening or did you know all along?
No, I think I always just so, obviously with what we do at Elevate and what I'm really good at is definitely the operations side. I have very much an operations type brain. And I think that for me, I just was like, for a long time, just, oh no, I just do operations. I'm not good at marketing. I'm not a marketer. I
Mm,
can't do that. Like, that's just not the way my brain works. I'm totally put off by it. Like, for a long time, I just kind of accepted it as that's just not my thing, and that's okay. But it really took, I think, just a lot of conversations with other business owners and being able to realize that, when, especially as a business owner, maybe when you're in corporate, you're being told how to show up, what to do. Like, they have their own thing that you kind of have to just follow their own way of doing things in the marketing realm. But when you're a business owner, I started to realize that there's so many different approaches that everybody takes out there with their own marketing in their business. So I think it was just having enough conversations over time, the connections that I was making, hearing how people were showing up, that I started to realize that marketing isn't, it's not the traditional cold calls, inauthentic, just making the pitching just to say you did it. All of those, like, oh, did you do 100 calls today? It doesn't have to look like that. Marketing can just be showing up however you want to show up. That's all it comes down to, is how do you, as the representative of your business, want to be visible to the people who potentially might need your services? So how are you showing up for your potential clients? How are they hearing about you? How are they seeing you? And as a business owner, you get to pick how that is, or how you want that to be. So if cold calling, for example, doesn't feel good to me, I don't have to do it. And it never has felt good to me. And to be
yep.
honest, even when I was in corporate and doing all of those and meeting my goals and exceeding my goals, cold calling didn't work to help me get there anyway. So just kind of, I think, just over time realizing that the definition just needed to be shifted a little bit for me.
Yes, I love that point. The definition you talked about, like shifting from like traditional marketing to like it's
Mhm.
just being visible. And you're so it sounds like, especially, I mean, just you as a person and your general personality, but also the past work experience you have, like you're just really big on relationships. And so that's
Yeah.
something that I always talk to people about too, is like, what if we reframe marketing to think about it as just building relationships with people? Like,
Mhm.
doesn't that make it feel a little better, a little more fun, a little more interesting, like something you actually
Right.
want to do instead of the thing like, oh, I have to do, like you say, like kind of checking the boxes, going through the motions, meeting the numbers, like yeah, it makes it feel a lot different, and I always say it gets you much different results, much
Yep.
better results when you're excited to show up and you have the right mindset about how you're
Yeah.
marketing yourself.
Yeah, because I think if you can have, I mean, ultimately, let's just say on all those cold calls or the traditional, however you get marketing out there, ultimately the goal is to have a conversation with somebody so you can see how you can help them, right? So I think it's just figuring out how you want to find those people in a way that feels good to you. If cold calling is what works for you and your business, great. If ads, if all these other ways to do it, it's just figuring out which way feels best. And for me, I have realized with like, you also have to think about, like, where does your current clientele exist? And where are they showing up? Because that's probably where you want to be, but there's probably 100 ways that they show up. And so it's figuring out what works. And for me, I love having conversations with people. I love hearing about, like, what are your current problems? How can I possibly help you? And to your point about, like, conversations with people and building relationships, sometimes those conversations don't end with us being the answer. But what ultimately my goal is that they left the call feeling like I still helped them, right? I led them in the right direction. I still made them feel heard and connected and all of that with somebody who gets it. And then maybe they're not the right fit, but a couple months later they might be in a room talking to someone who is, and they'll introduce me. And so I just think that for me, all of that feels really good. And I think you said it earlier, it just takes the pressure off, because I think sometimes the numbers and all of that can feel so daunting. And I think someone else told me recently, it might even have been you, to be honest. But someone that said, like, a lot of your ideal clients, like, they're not the ones liking your social media posts. They're not, they're the lurkers. They're the people who are like randomly, however long they've been following you for however many years or months, they might finally book a call with you and say, oh, I've been following you for a long time. And you might look back and they probably have never once liked or commented on your posts. So really, it's
Yes.
just showing up and being willing to have conversations with whomever is ready to have that conversation.
Yes. Yes. I do say that. So it might have been me. It could have been somebody else too.
As soon as I thought about it, I was like, wait, this might have been you.
Yeah, it's so true in this digital world that we're in. Yes, there's a lot of ways to track online activity, but there are a lot of things that you can never track. And that's one of those
Mhm.
things is who is seeing you time and time again, but they are not interacting. They're not letting you know that they're following along and listening to what you have to say. And then all of a sudden they book a call and they're like, I've been following you forever. I knew I've had someone do this. They're like, I knew that when I was ready to tackle my marketing, you were going to be the person. And I was like,
Right.
we've never even talked before. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah,
But it's just so
exactly.
true.
Yep.
You don't know who's watching. And I really just want to hammer home this point that you shared, Ashley, in that we all need to find what works for us. People who have been following me for a while know that this is something I say time and time again. There are so many marketing tactics that are available to us. It's a blessing and a curse, I think, because I think that's what part of what contributes to making it feel very overwhelming and intimidating to business owners is like there's all these tactics.
Yes.
But I always say, like, you're not meant to do all of them. Like, the
Right.
nice part is you have all these options. So,
Yes.
to your like you said, if cold calling doesn't work for you, like, don't do that. Find something else. Go to a networking event or start doing one-on-one, coffee chats or
Yes.
connection calls or whatever you want to call them. Like, there's so many different ways that you can show up as a business owner. And I love how you shared kind of your journey was like, it was a lot of conversations, just like talking to other business owners and realizing like, I can do it my way. I don't have to do all these things that are maybe like kind of stuck in my mind from corporate. Like, this is my opportunity as a business owner to take ownership and leadership and say, this is how I want to market my business because it feels good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like you said, the number of options out there are endless. And I always joke, I am very much the person, I don't know about you, when you go to a restaurant and there's this giant menu, I get so overwhelmed. There's too many choices. How am I supposed to
Yes.
choose by the time the waiter comes around? And so I do get overwhelmed by all the choices out there of marketing strategies, different, whether it is a platform to try or a just different way of doing things, whatever it is, a strategy. And it is overwhelming, and it is very hard to figure out which is the right choice for me. And I think the big thing is just to do what feels good and understand and know that it's not forever. You're not committing to this one choice forever. You can just say to yourself, I'm going to try this for the next, let's say, 1 to 3 months and just see how it goes. But you want to commit to where it feels good and it's doable and you can remain consistent. Because that was the other thing, like a lesson that I've learned is for a while, I think I was just trying to show up, even though they were all places that I loved and it felt good. It was just too much for one person to do. So then it felt overwhelming. And so it's also finding that balance of, okay, maybe for right now, I'm just going to focus on these two areas. Or if you're ready to bring on help and all of that, then that's great. But I think it's finding the balance of all the choices that feels good and knowing that you can change it. It's okay.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's someone else on the show I feel like said something. I'm not going to remember the quote now, but it was like your marketing should always be evolving. Like just I
Hmm.
mean really like really all areas of your business, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
should never be like a set it and forget it. It should be this constant evolution of like, well, this is working, this is not, or I'm spreading myself too thin. I got to pull back and not
Hmm.
add more to my plate kind of thing. One other thing that you had mentioned when we were chatting about having this conversation today was back to the whole notion of relationship building and having conversations, getting involved with like speaking and connecting with people. How did that kind of, I think you mentioned like you got to a certain point where you were able to start like outsourcing and not doing it all yourself. So what did that kind of journey look like for you?
Yeah, so I think that I have come up with a really good mix of marketing support because again, it isn't I no longer say I'm not good at marketing. I just say because I am. I just had to like figure out what it looked like for me. But I realized that I am not great at some of the parts, right? And so for me, content creation from scratch is not my thing. I could do it, but I am not efficient. It takes me forever. I'm a recovering perfectionist, and so I will spend way too much time coming up with a finished product. So what I
You're
have
in good
realized is
company.
that
I'll just say that.
yeah, yeah, it's really difficult. So I know that I need to outsource like that type of thing, right? So content creation. So I have found an amazing copywriter, for example, who I can just have a conversation with every month. We just kind of she has these great ways of asking me questions and it's all my voice. I'm spitballing with her. We use Voxer, for example, and I'm just saying all of my thoughts and things, and she's able to then turn it into something beautiful, and it sounds like me, it is me, it's all of my stuff, but I don't have to be the one writing something from scratch. I really get stuck there, like really, really stuck. So that's been a beautiful thing. And then that also allows me then to create my own content, show up in an authentic way, for example, on a video or Instagram stories or a LinkedIn post, because she has now given me for our newsletters a framework to work from. So again, I just don't do good like that blinking dot of a text, an empty text on a LinkedIn post. I freeze. I don't know. So it just I need a jumping pad, right? I just need somewhere to
Yeah.
go from, and I feel like I really thrive there. So that's how I've worked content creation, and then for just networking in general, yeah, just showing up and having conversations. I really thrive on one-on-one conversations, really getting to know people and what are you dealing with right now? How can I support you? And like I said earlier, whether that's our services that we provide or someone else I know, I think that just people just need to feel heard. I think in this day and age, I mean, it's really funny that we're in the realm of people being like, I called so and so company and a real person answered. You know, we have that. That's very impressive nowadays. And so I just think that that human connection for me personally is really important. And then, yeah, I love speaking to people. I love like to groups, to business owners, teaching them about delegation. That's something that I love talking about. And I think that it's a skill that everybody is honing. I'm still honing it, you know, but I love giving people the tools that they can hopefully take to improve their own lives personally and professionally. Because to be honest, my delegation skill started on the personal side. So yeah, I think that just helping people really, and I think I've always had this like service heart. For when I look back at my whole career, that's really what I was actually doing. And so I think that's why for me, one-on-one conversations just work really well.
Yeah. It's so funny because you and I have had some prior calls and gotten to know each other in certain ways, talking about kids and,
Yep.
parenting challenges. But it's so funny we've never talked about our past like work experiences. And that's another thing that we really have in common too, is just that like service and being helpful to people. And I
Mhm.
love that that is now able to shine through in your marketing because of the journey you've been on in navigating marketing for your business. And the other thing I was gonna say, what was it? Something that you said about, oh, I love that you found this balance because again, I think business owners listening to the show, a lot of them, I'm just going based on experience. If the conversations I have with people translate to who's listening to the show, I think a lot of people have this kind of struggle with, I would like to outsource, I would like to delegate, but also maybe I've tried it and it didn't go
Mhm.
well because it didn't sound like me, it didn't feel
Yep.
authentic, or I've just never gone there because I'm afraid it's not gonna sound
Yep.
like me and it's not gonna be authentic. And so I really love that you found this balance for yourself that works. Like you found a provider who can ask you those questions to pull out those nuggets
Mhm.
from you. And so you're feeling like it is very aligned for you and the way that you would speak and how you want to communicate information and having that. And I know because I'm on your email list, having that tendency to like be helpful through your content. So it's
Yep.
all very you and your business and on brand, and you're able to leverage outside resources so that it doesn't all stay on your plate and bog you down.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it allows me to have more fun with it too. Cause like I said, if I personally had to be responsible for all of our marketing and how we want to show up everywhere, I would end up falling short in a lot of areas just because it is too much, and it's not my favorite thing, it's not my most natural thing. Conversation, sure, but I know I also have to create content, and that's not where I'm strong. So I think that,
Yep.
like you said, it's just finding that right balance, so that way it still feels really good. Because
Mhm.
gosh, there are some days where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm the face of this business and I don't feel like it today, and so like I think that being able to come up with a way to create content and show up in a way that feels good, or at least and maybe in combination in a way that allows you to batch it if far in advance, or have someone to help support you. It will help you continue to be excited about showing up.
Yes. Yes. I love
Yeah.
that. Well, as we get ready to wrap up, Ashley, I feel like we've covered so many great lessons in terms of, I think, the first thing we talked about was your mindset around marketing, like taking that step back and thinking like, okay, are there some things I'm holding on to from my past that are kind of weighing on me and making marketing feel heavy and complicated and overwhelming and tedious, all of those negative things. And how can you really shift that to what lights you up? And for you, that's the relationships, that's being of service and being
Hmm.
helpful to others. And so I think that those are all really great lessons for business owners in terms of how to approach your marketing. And then the last thing we're talking about, right, is like finding that right balance of what is it that you do want to hold on to, that you get excited to show up in that way, and what is it that you can start leveraging other resources for so that it doesn't feel like too much weighing on you.
Right.
Is there anything else that you would like to leave listeners with? Any
Oh, that's such a
lessons?
good question. Well, I will leave, I guess, with I wrote a LinkedIn post yesterday actually about this. I was just on a discovery call, and our intake form had just kind of had like some errors on it, so it didn't ask how they found me. And so I had to ask him on the call, and he said he found me in Chat GPT, which I thought was wild. So
Wow.
I still am not quite understanding how, but I feel like maybe that's a new SEO. But I will say that as cool as that was, it was also really cool to see that he said that there was a list of, suggestions. He went to everyone's website, including ours, and we were the only ones he booked a call with because he felt the um, the connection there, right? He felt like he
Mm,
understood clearly who we were, what we were about, and that we could really help him. And then having a conversation with me directly, like all of those things. So as much as like AI is a thing and everyone's, worried about technology and all of that taking over, yes, that's how he found me. But what eventually led him to booking a call with me and all of that is because the human connection side, right? So I think that on that, as much as we were just talking about balance with marketing and how you show up, I think it's also just remembering that you are such an important piece to your business. So to make sure that you are showing up and connecting with people, and that your website feels connection, like things like that. So I think it was a really cool nerdy factor, but also like a really
yeah.
good reminder that the human connection side is also really important.
That is awesome. Oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
love everything about that. That is so
Yeah.
cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. So yes, important for everyone to remember that it all comes back to the relationships like we were saying
Hmm.
earlier, and it's allowing people to see you as the business owner. I've had this conversation in past episodes of the show where it's like founder led content is really important no matter the size of your business,
Yeah.
because it's people do business with people and they have to get to know you. And it sounds like your website did a great job of this, prospect getting to know your business and you as a founder, and then being able to get on that call with you. Sounds like that just made an incredible difference for him in terms of evaluating who he wanted to work with.
Yeah, exactly. It was really cool. Such a cool
That's
story.
awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so very lastly, Ashley, as we wrap up here, how can people learn more about you and the awesome work you're doing with Elevate Virtual Business Solutions?
Sure. So our website is elevatebbsolutions.com. We also are very active on LinkedIn. So that is at on Instagram at Elevate VV Solutions. And then I'm really active on LinkedIn, which is Ashley M. Carlson. So I would love to connect with anyone there. We also are doing, I am leading a monthly workshop once a month on delegation. And it's meant to be very small groups, like 5 or 6 business owners, executives, whoever is out there struggling with delegation, really, hands-on delegation exercises, building the skill set, but also allowing you to identify what you need to delegate and how to do it successfully. So all that is on our socials and website as well. So some of this
Awesome.
could definitely help with how to delegate or what to delegate in your marketing, right? So
Yes. Yes, I love that. I love that you're offering the workshop. You practice what you preach in terms of being helpful and being of service, and that sounds like a really, really valuable process for business owners to go through. So, thank you so much, Ashley, for coming on the show and spending time with me and our listeners.